Right, so speaking of talking, we can listen to things in many different forms, and our body is often, Hannah, telling us things that we need to pay attention to.
Yeah, our body is, a lot of bodies are actually screaming to us, and really what I do is I actually work in the business world doing something called stress boot camp, but showing people what their body is actually trying to tell them in a way that we all have injuries. We've all suffered from different types of injuries, from diseases, illnesses, and how I kind of got to that was actually through my own experience. And so I'm a trainer. Like, I've been in the industry for 14 years, and so everything I do, I have to test out on myself first, and then I'll be ready to kind of come out and give all the information. So,
which makes sense, because how do you talk about what you don't know?
Oh,
yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
Exactly.
So you talk about injuries and things like that, and illnesses. Is there a difference between the football player that goes out and has another football player fall on his ankle and sprains it, or me who's just walking down the stairs and slips and sprains my ankle? Are they both telling you the same thing?
No.
Okay.
Well, there's like a basis of things. Everything in our body means different things, and we could go through different body parts and give you an overall guide. The main difference between you and the football player would be what was going on in your lives at that time. That would give us the indicator of what we needed to look at. So for instance, I think of it as, you know, the 5 W's. You know, the what, when, where, why. So who is you? Who did it happen to? And then, you know, what part of your body, when did it happen, what was it going on in your life at the time? Then you're able to distinguish, why did this really happen to you? You know, and if you look at all the factors, so my back went out in 2005, and I was working in a corporate training job. I was managing a training department, and I literally got up to go to work, and I was having some back problems, like little stuff. It was always little indicators, but I just got up and back out. And I was about to go to work. I wasn't happy where I was. Like, all of those things, I was whining and complaining up to those moments. Like, when those things happen, your life is never perfect, although, you know what I mean? Like, there was indicators before that.
Often you look at it and go, I can't believe something else has just gone wrong.
Exactly, because it just leads up, right? And then I had to get the big boulder where I was out, and I did not go to work, and I was on disability. And I had to look at what was going on in my life. I wasn't happy in my job. Yeah, I was training, and I love to talk, obviously, but I wasn't doing exactly what I wanted to do. And the back, what do you think of when you think of your back?
Support.
Support. I wasn't supporting myself in what I wanted to do. I wasn't feeling supported at work. So I could look at that and go, oh man. Then you can figure out the how. What do I do next? Like, we have to recognize what's wrong, and then from there, we're able to make a change, make a better decision, or make a different decision. And a lot of times, I think people just get stuck in the injury.
And there's signs everywhere if we just choose to see them.
Yeah.
Yeah. You make it sound like it's a mental thing here, as like the body and mind connection. But obviously, you've got to go out and do other things to fix your back. It's not just changing your thinking and, you know, going, I've got to move on to another job, or I've got to make this one right. Your back is not going to get better from that.
No, but I'll tell you this. When I recognized that really it was my job and there was other decisions that I had to make, the right doctor came along. I had the right people come and help me. From that, when I got in and I built the center with Marlene, and we did all these other things, my back was no longer an issue. Now, it becomes an indicator when something is going wrong. Usually when something goes wrong in my life, or maybe I haven't said what I wanted to say, or I'm not in line, it gives about 24 hours and an injury will pop up. My old back injury will start to hurt again, right? It's an indicator of going, okay, what is it that I'm not really looking at? And I'd rather get the little pain than be out on my back, so I'm a little bit more aware now that I need to look at different things.
Okay.
Cool.
Excellent. Should we take a quick break from the studio?
We will, yes, because it's that time.
Michelle. Here we come back, laughing and poking fun at each other again. Okay.
Rob is calling, caw, caw. I like this shirt. I feel funky and 70s in it.
And you are funky and 70 in it.
70s, like
70s.
70s.
Okay,
You're not 70.
Sorry.
Speaking of pains in the neck, hi Hannah. Speaking of injuries, I have a pain in the neck that drives me up the wall. I've tried harsh drugs to get rid of the pain, and nothing has worked. What does a pain in the neck represent?
I can't believe you wrote that to Hannah.
Adrian. Okay. I'm off the drugs, by the way.
You're off the drugs now. That's good. Well, you know, we were talking about this during break, is that there's a lot of things that are indicative of what we need to look at. So we have, like, stick your neck out for people, pain in the neck. There's a lot of different things, you know, follow your nose. I put my back out for you. You know, there's so many things that are very much we can apply. And the pain in the neck, if we look at a neck, okay, and what I really want to teach people is that we just have to think of its function. Then we're able to look at the sign. And then we look at what is going on in our life. So what does a neck do? Right? It looks around. and it looks around in perception, and also a lot of times she may have an inability to look that there's another way of doing something in her life. So when the pain, now if you're able to go back, sometimes it's hard, but when it first started, look at what was going on in your life, the things that you were having troubles with at that time, and then when it starts to flare up, look at what's going on. You know, if it's at your work, if it's at home, does someone say something to you? You know, and sometimes it will happen instantly, or it will happen a few hours later, or so on. But when you're able to look at that, you look at the neck, it's all about looking at, she may need to change her perception, what she's looking at, how she's viewing it, and also the inability to look at that there's another way of doing something. And that's a lot of the pain in the neck. And how about the weight of the world, the shoulders? A lot of people who have pains here will have pains like in their shoulders. And you think of that, the weight of the world on your shoulders. So you're taking everybody else's stuff on instead of allowing them to have their stuff and looking at another way of doing things and really taking care of yourself. So a lot of times we'll take everybody else's stuff on because we don't want to look at our own.
Oh,
interesting.
Very interesting. So we're talking about listening to our bodies and letting ourselves tell us what may or may not be working in our lives. You had a very personal experience with this.
Sorry, we also promised that you talk about left and right.
I know.
So maybe.
So we'll leave them hanging on both.
Okay.
No, well, the left, we'll start with the left and right.
Okay.
The left side, just think of where your heart is. So that's always going to be the female side, the intuition, the feeling side. And the right side is all about action. Okay, so depending on which side of the body it happens, you can also apply that technique to what's happening, you know, with the ears, the eyes, because everything, you know, we can split down.
So if it happens on the left or on the right side, then you should be taking action then?
Either that you're resistant to action or that you should be taking action.
Okay.
You know, so it depends on the situation that you're looking at in your life. Of course, there's always interpretation, but there are some really guidelines of what everything means, and then what's going on.
Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, my personal story, I guess we'll let them know. Basically, in 2003, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. But up until that point, I was constantly sick. I mean, I joke that I was like a bad science experiment. You know, I just felt to this point, you know, I had ear infections. I was diagnosed with diabetes. I had throat infections. I dislocated my here we go. I dislocated my right shoulder 14 times as a teenager. Wow. I mean, there was just nothing that seemed to happen that, you know, I just thought at 25, I got diagnosed with breast cancer. For me, I just thought, you know what, if this is what my 25 years have been, I'm done. Mm-hmm. You know, I'm just always sick. But to that point, I had a thought process totally built up. And people would even repeat it to me, you're always sick. You know, you're so accident prone. You know, I really had all these issues that I was different from everybody else and no one understood me, and I did everything for everyone else. And when I looked at the breast cancer, my brother actually was one at the time that handed me a book by Deepak Chopra, which was Quantum Healing. Mm-hmm. And it began to open my eyes that there's something else out there. You know, the doctor saying, this just happened to you, mm-hmm. was no longer enough. You know, like I knew that I had to be a part of this somehow. After all, it was my body. Right. And so when I began to look at that area, the chest area and the breast, you think of that with children, it's nurturing, right? It's the nurturing part, it's how we feed ourselves and everything else. And I realized that I didn't know how to nurture myself. I did everything for everybody else because I didn't want to look at my own stuff, and I did everything for everybody else. I took care of, I was in the wrong relationship, and I didn't know how to feed myself, I didn't know how to nurture myself. And when I began, everyone said, well, then what? What do you do after that? I think 90% of the problem is recognition of what it is. Once I was able to recognize it, I kind of felt free. Like, yes, this is mine, I can own it. And when I changed that, other things in my life began to change. Like I met my business partner, Marlene, and we opened up Band Now. And there's all these other things that began to change when I began to change my perception. I went out of the victim state of saying this always happens to me into, okay, I know why I have this and I know what I need to do. There is a choice. So it was very powerful in terms of, for me, my life experience. I'm no longer diabetic. I have changed so many things. I mean, the last time I was sick was maybe a flu or a cold, and that was it.
Right. Obviously, this was not a quick process for you.
No, I mean, the cancer was, in the end, I think, to the medical community, they didn't understand it because I really did, you know, I did get diagnosed twice in 1 year. You know, they always say they didn't get it all the first time, but really I hadn't changed completely yet. I kind of did some little changes and thought I could fool the universe, but I didn't do it all. And, you know, it was a slower process, but, you know, since 2002 to now, to get from there, you know, what's a few years? What's a few years in the end? I already had 25 years of not so great, you know, fun being sick. So a few years to get where I was or where I am today, and I'll still continue to change because we're always going to get sick. ever stubbed your toe? Even those little things, stubbing your toe, the toes are all about the little things in the future. When you stub your toe, you're probably worried about the things you shouldn't even be worried about. It's time to refocus onto the bigger picture.
Very cool. All right, so we're going to do a better job at listening to ourselves. We'd love to listen to you. Thank you so much for being here. And we'll tell you where you can find Hannah and learn more or ask her questions. Sorry we didn't get to everyone's emails today, but you can contact Hannah directly at the And Now Center. It's 106th and 113th. It's right at the corner of 107th and 113th. 701-1928 andnow.ca for more information.
Excellent. Thanks very much, Hannah. If you can stick around for a little bit, Bridget is going to be telling us about a new festival here in town. It's called the Deep Freeze Festival. Take a look.